Yes, it's working. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Junior Night, a very special night, a big marker for your students. How many of you have done Junior Night in person before? Ooh, good. Okay. So the people who don't have your hands up, these are the people to talk to. Ask lots of questions. These are the experts. Well, welcome. This is... I'll take a moment to let some more folks to come in. We're not going to have you in here for too long, so feel free to sit wherever you'd like. So tonight is just an important night to really share information with you and to help your student to start to think about the future, regardless of whether they've been thinking about it since kindergarten or they haven't thought about it yet. This is a time to begin that conversation, and I think I forgot to do it at our Transitioning Together event, so I wanted to first just say that I want to thank the college and career counselors as well as our counselors, because they have an extraordinary amount of information, knowledge, and expertise to help you through this process. The best advice that I've heard them say that I regularly share to friends of mine who are beginning this process is to have organized conversations about this process. To bring it up to them every single day is going to create more anxiety, more stress, more arguments in your home. But to say, we're going to meet every Thursday evening and we're going to figure out where we are. And on that Thursday evening, if they don't have anything, any updates for you, you can say, well, we'll meet next Thursday, and we expect that you're going to at least have researched one college, right? If you can do that in an organized fashion, at least they know that there's going to be conversations, they can plan for it, as opposed to feeling like they're going to get popcorn questions, and then when they see family members, they're going to get all of those questions. So thinking about how we manage their anxiety while also moving them along in this process. And sometimes moving them along means slowing them down as well. And this time of year is really about enjoying the experience and getting to kind of explore what are some possibilities. And I think that we've got amazing people who will help you through that process. I will lastly just say that I feel that we are really lucky to have the kinds of counselors that we have, and I think that our transition through the pandemic, where the college process has changed so much, that we have seen extraordinary results in how our students are doing. We have been, prior to the pandemic, really proud that somewhere around 75 to 80% of our students would report that they got into one of their top 3 schools, and they are reporting over the last 2 years that same information. We're seeing that students are getting into an array of colleges that they're really excited about. We have seen colleges that maybe students don't typically apply for Newton North, students getting in, military academies, students are getting in. We're seeing that from some of the most competitive colleges. We did a study on Ivy Leagues, and we've seen more students from our class of 2022 got in, and then in a lot of years prior. And we're doing pretty well this year as well as the array of schools that we want kids exploring. And so that's what this process is about, is supporting you, supporting your kid, and helping through the process, and I really think that we have the best of the best helping you through it. I will say just a couple of announcements, because we've, in working with the counseling department, have shortened the announcement portion of these meetings. So I've been sort of tasked with giving just a couple of quick updates. One is that our PTSO edX campaign is still ongoing, which is 9th grade physics probes and recorders for conducting physics projects. They're really, really cool. We've raised about $16,000 so far. We're hoping to raise more. It closes March 1st. And so hopefully it's something that you'd consider giving to. You can go to the PTSO website for more information. Second is that we've been talking about how we have shifted a lot as a school over the last 10 years, really focused around instruction. It's been something that I feel like I was, part of the reason why I was hired for this role was because of my passion around shifting instruction. And you have seen a lot of those changes, particularly over the last few years. Our department heads from Math, English, Science, Social Studies, and World Language on February 7th are going to do a presentation for families about the shifts in instruction, why they're important, and why they're preparing kids better for the future than our previous ways of instructing. And so we'll answer questions around our multi-level classes, around what is our vision for where things are going, how we're adapting to the schedule, all of those things. So I really would encourage you to think about coming. We will give a presentation and answer questions. And then finally is that a big question that's going on in our community is what is the impact on this budget for Newton North? And the reality is that Newton North, while there may be news in this community, the district, that we're seeing declining enrollment in the district, that is not true for this building, which is really great that so many kids want to come to Newton North. This year we are 30 students over the projected number that we had planned for. So we had to take a cut for staff last year, and so we are understaffed right now. Next year we are projected to have 60 more students coming, and so that puts a significant tax on how we're thinking about next year. And I know for families whose child are going to senior year, that's probably something that you're really focused on, as students have a lot of electives to take. And so because we are in such a deficit right now, is that what the information was shared at the school committee meeting, is that the impact goes beyond just class size. So in previous years, we may have taken a 1 or 2 FTE cut and we've been able to absorb it with retirement here or there. But this is significant enough, if this override doesn't pass, it's significant enough that it will have an impact on programs such as some of our athletic programs, some of our theater and music programs, some of our extracurricular activities. So this is not something that I want to share with you, but I want to make sure that you have the specific information for this specific school as you hear a lot of information over the course of the next few months. So I believe that's all the information I have on that end, and your lone other announcement person is going to be your House Dean, Mr. Kari Rulak.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. I want to take this opportunity to welcome again everyone to junior night. You're going to learn a lot of valuable information this evening about the college process. I'm not going to be very long. I wanted to also, many of you guys remember Miss Miss Wong. She went on and retired, and then we had Miss Friend in our office to help me out with some of the things around the office. We have Miss Rivera here, who I wanted to introduce to you all, just to have a face of the name. Ms. Rivera has been very helpful to the office. If you have any questions about attendance or where your cherub may be at the moment, you can reach out to Ms. Rivera and she can help you out. Do we have any students, any juniors in the class, in the audience? By show of hands, any junior students? All right, awesome, awesome. I want to try something else. So when I say start here, what do you say? You juniors, if I say start here, what's our motto? Anybody? Go anywhere. So this is the perfect theme for tonight's event because you guys have already started here 2 years ago with me. We all started together. This is an opportunity to look at what it looks like to go anywhere. So you're going to hear from your counselors this evening. They're going to tell you about your options. They're going to tell you about your different opportunities to get started with the college process. And we want you to take advantage of that. We want you to take advantage of that. Because now is the time for our juniors and our junior parents to get involved, kick it into high gear. And with that, I want to welcome you again and thank you for being here. I'll certainly be around to answer any questions as the evening goes on. My presentation is short, and I'm going to introduce Beth Swiderskis.
Hello, everybody. All right. I like the anchor of a podium, so I'm going to hang out up here, if that's okay. Plus, I get to control what's going on that screen. So, I'm Beth Swiderskis, and I have the honor of being the counseling department chair here at Newton North High School. Because it's such a great place, and we just love working with our kids and just really seeing how they form and transform from the day they come in as freshmen by the time they leave. And it really is a transformative period for so many of them, and we just really enjoy supporting them all along the way. That being said, welcome to Junior Family Night. Many of you may be like a blink of an eye, right? It goes by really quickly. So we want to make the time that they have here quite meaningful, and we're launching the second semester junior night as a way to have, as a springboard, and to help figure out what it is that they want to do. And that could be a really big question, but we're going to try to break it down for you tonight with a lot of information and resources and make it an exciting and enjoyable night, and that when you leave, you're going to be like, all right, I think I got an idea of what's going on. That being said, as you know, Henry said, like, who is the first time going through this? It could be the third time. For many of us, we do it every year. So regardless of where your children may be, you know, in this process, we're going to meet them wherever they are at. And what's going to happen as we go through, much of tonight you are going to hear is going to focus on the college application, not necessarily application, we're not there yet, sorry, the college planning process. And we recognize that all of our students can have a different path, whatever it is that they so desire. So we want to make sure that you hear that message, that although a lot of this is going to then go into the focus of the college aspect, whether it's going to be any of these four-year college, two-year college, a gap year, work, military, specialized post-grad education, we are here to meet the needs for every single student, okay? And that can come in many different forms. So I just wanted to put that out there, and so that knowing that there's going to be a place for everyone to go, okay? Now, where do we begin? So, sometimes you kind of start with the philosophical. We may start with like some questions. So what we've done is like there's kind of a set of questions of the students themselves, asking what do they really want? Because at the end of the day, it's them who's going. So we want to kind of, you know, pick their brains and see where, so that they can self-reflect. Why do they even want to go if it is college? What do they think they're going to get out of it? What do they want to learn? What kind of learning environment do they want to be in? Having the balance with the academic and social activities what type of, anywhere from the campus setting to the type of city to the type of wherever they want to go, some of these questions to think about ahead of time is going to help them a little later on. And then to love that last bullet, how involved do I want my parents and guardians in this process? That remains to be seen. So look what I have here. I have questions for you to consider as well as parents and guardians. What are your hopes and dreams and expectations for where you see your child go off after Newton North? The type of environment that you may see that might be a good fit for them. And then taking into consideration geographical, location, financial, and other possible constraints. So when you have important conversations, the goal is to be on the same page. And then, how do you envision your role to be involved? As much as you'd like it to be, or as much as they would like you to have. Those are just some things to, kind of process. And by the way, this PowerPoint, it will be available on the website so you all can get it, because you can come back to it and you don't have to, remember everything we say. Okay, we are about a lot of resources here, both in human form as well as electronic form, and some even in hard copy. So just to make sure, and I know that a lot of these things were sent home electronically through our lovely house office, the Adams House office. We just want to make sure that people have access to a lot of these. So how many of you knew that we have a college planning guide? Oh, not bad. Okay, that's pretty good. That's good. And it is fully electronic, and just, what happens is we go, and it is at your fingertips. It's through the Newton North website, and it has a plethora of information, okay, that you can see. There are chapters that you link to. The purpose is not to read it necessarily cover to cover, okay? It's really what is relevant at the time for your child as they're going through this process, and for you as well. So when it does come to, look at some essays, when it comes time to talk about the standardized testing, application options, you click away, and it should bring you to that particular section. So it's always at your fingertips on the Newton North website, or if you have it, you can bookmark it. Okay? All right. The next is another electronic resource that is created by our fantastic college and career counselors within our College and Career Center. And how many of you have looked at this? You didn't know it was going to be such a quiz tonight, okay? How many of you have looked at this document? Okay, so next time we meet, I want to see a lot more hands up. That's what I'm just telling you. So this, any information that gets to our college and career counselors, however that is, they organize this in this Google Doc. And there's a lot, because there's a lot to go on. And so what we want to do is make sure that you can open up this Google Doc, bookmark it, and what we suggest is look at it kind of on a weekly basis. And things that are highlighted are going to be in orange. So it's not like you have to go through it the entire thing the whole time. Okay? So that's also been sent to you through the letters and documents through the Adams House. But if you don't think you have one of these or access to these, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay? It's really good stuff. Other types of resources, so College and Career Center, who you're going to hear from later. Juniors now have open season in the College and Career Center starting in the second semester. So they can have individual meetings with their college and career counselor. It could be any one of the three, and they'll tell you how that works out. That is a particular resource that we are very, very lucky to have. The juniors are now going to be in their second junior seminar this week. They had their first seminar last week, and that is with their school counselor. And we really preserve that relationship because we want it with their school counselor as much as possible. Sometimes they're paired up, that's okay. But our school counselors are giving those seminars from last week as well as this week. And then, in addition to that, there'll be one in May. There'll be a third one. Within these seminars, we're basically going over the very similar information that we are tonight. As you see, kind of, graduation requirements, progress to grad reviews. We also explain GPA, take a look at their transcript a bit. And we go through all the aspects of what we want them to know about and how they can get the support all along the way. And then after the seminars are over, our counselors meet individually. So they have different ways to make appointments with their school counselors. You're going to hear a little bit more about that, about the role later on. We also have college admission rep visits. Colleges love to come and hear how fantastic our students are. And that is, they can sign up through the WIN blocks. We're figuring out how to do that through SCORE. We're getting there. I'm going to get to SCORE also in a few minutes. Speaking of SCORE. And then college websites and Instagram and everything again at, a moment's notice that they can look on as resources. Okay? Are you hanging in there? You all right? Okay. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of a nitty-gritty. All right. So, we just want to make sure that you kind of understand now when it comes into what an academic profile of our juniors are going to have. So many of you may have already accessed, so last week I want to say in Aspen, an email sent by the famous Amy Winston, there was a way for our juniors to access their basically unofficial transcript. Has anybody done that yet? Anybody taken a look? Oh, some hands, good, okay, we're getting better with those, fantastic. So in Aspen, in the documents file, they can look and see what their transcript is going to look like. And I'm going to show you a sample. And what it does, it designates the different curriculum level of the courses that the students have taken. It also indicates the GPA information and includes information about our grading systems, because we did have a pandemic. So with that in mind, we had 3 different grading systems over the past few years. And to make, how to pull those things together, that's when we created a grade point average that is based on an annual year. So they will see a 9th grade, a 10th grade, and halfway through 11th grade. It's unweighted 4.0 for each of the GPAs, and that's how it's going to show on the transcript. So I'm going to give you a little sample. Some of you may recognize this name, probably the adults, not as many of the children. So, to get it? Greg Brady. I think Newton South is Peter Brady, so then again, we have the oldest one and more experienced. So, as you can see, very spiffy, right? It gives nice information at the top of Newton North, and it lists the classes that Greg has taken since 9th grade and final grade and credits earned, 10th grade, final grade and credits earned, and 11th, okay. So just back it up. This will be eventually the 11th grade that will be completed. Right now, our juniors are in progress because it's only the first 2 terms. You get that right? Because we haven't finished 11th grade yet. So then you'll see where the information, and it gives us a legend about what the different curriculum levels are next to each class title, and our grade point information. And it says that, grade 9 gives a certain grade point average, grade 10, and grade 11. And it explains our grading system, what we had in 2021 to 2022, and 2020 to 2021. Okay, so it's very clear. We definitely hear feedback from colleges. We have a very clear and easily to understand transcript, and that's what we want. We never want a college to be like, I can't make out what this says. No. And a little thing about GPA is that we have found through our research as we go through this whole system that well over the majority of colleges will recalculate a student's GPA based on their own system. Okay? So we just want to make that clear, but we give them kind of a benchmark to look at. All right. So now we're cooking with gas, right? We're getting into the nitty-gritty of stuff. Fantastic. So, the next thing, SCORE. Okay? So it's brand new. So those who've been here before probably have worked with Naviance. But for research and how we're moving forward, the district decided that, or we did a lot of research, and with Newton South, very collaborative, we have now chosen SCORE as our college and career management system. In this slide, you will see that the career management system, SCORE just transitioned from one platform to another and it's called Principles U. They're onboarding it. It's next-gen character exploration, and it gives a lot of different, it bases on archetypes of student preferences and how it's going to match within careers within the system. So we're just working with their timeline of having that up and running, okay? Now, last week or even the week before, our juniors got an invitation from SCORE to create an account. Yes? Can I see hands about that? Okay, it's not working. So, oh, sorry. Here I go. Okay. With that, we also sent an email about, in the email it said to change their primary emails to their personal email. We're working with every junior in our seminars to make sure that that happens, because we want eventually colleges to be able to communicate with our juniors through the SCORE system, and we're going to break through the firewall if it comes to just NPS Gmail, okay? But it's working smoothly as we are hearing some feedback. So now, I'm going to be Beth Swiderski's student. I'm going back to high school. I had fun. It was fun. Okay. So I'm going to show a little demo. So here is my welcome page, SCORE fam, right? And I can see if I qualify, invite a supporter. So I want to be very clear. Parents or guardians are invited to explore SCORE along with their children. The invitations are not coming from Newton North because we want our kids to lead the process. So all I need to do is click on get started or whatever, and then there should be an email. Where am I? Ooh, invite a parent. And then I supply, my mom's 86. I'm not inviting her today, okay? She's been through the process. Anyway, she did call right before. I'm like, I can't talk. So what happens is that you invite the parent, and then you are onboarded. That is different if people who use Naviance, that wasn't the same. It wasn't as interconnected with their children. Again, I don't know if it's good or bad, but we're giving that option to everybody. And then it goes into, I'm going to try to do this successfully to go back. Okay, so that's how they would invite parent or guardian. And what we have up here, I know it's a different kind of screen. So these are the different things. The home screen, discover, oh, what's discover? This is how they can start a whole search about what they're looking for, of location, 4-year, and then it comes into their matches, and you may also like. So let's see, do I have any matches on here? Oh, would you look at me? Penn State, Syracuse. So what it is, as soon as you match, the college comes up, and it's saved in their account. So I want to see how the Nittany Lions are doing, right? What's going on with them? So it tells me all the things within the school on the SCORE page, okay? It has these different topic, I was going to say topic sentences, and we're not doing an essay, but the topics. Overview, we go to academics, we go to admissions. So I wanted to click on admissions because, see this button? View application scattergram. So what Naviance also have is historical data of how our students did based on a couple of data points and whether they got in or did not get in or how they got in or not into the colleges. So we migrated all that data so we have working scattergrams. See? Yay. That should be, ooh, that's a good thing. And then the legend, this is where it gets me wrong. You know, it's green is accepted, red not accepted, blue waitlisted, and yellow deferred. You can sort by application type. So this is all applications. Then you can go to what happened if they applied early, whether it was regular decision, okay? And the data points are GPA at the top, SAT on the left, and ACT on the right, okay? So that information is still there for everybody. What it also does is, it goes into, okay, there are events and deadlines. Eventually we'll have the junior questionnaire survey on here. You can compare colleges, up to 4 different ones, about the information and anything that of the categories will allow you to look at. like something, that sounds good. If you like a college, you can make it a suggestion for your children. If I follow it, I click a ribbon, I'm getting some emails from GW. Then I go into the applying section and eventually in the applied. So it just really takes you along the whole process. It's actually very user-friendly and the graphics are kind of cool too. And then I wanted to do, oh, the drive. Where am I finding the drive? View profile. Thank you. So it tells me who I am. Oh, and I love it. We want to find out about all of our needs for our students. For example, are we a first-generation college student? We could put yes, we could put no, and that gives us the information there as well to make sure we're flagging our students for first gen. Here's my account, email, FERPA, application, academic overview, GPA test scores. Oh, personal bio. This is where a student can like totally shine. They can add a personal statement. They can do the, like put in what are my achievements, what are the things in my activities that I like to do. It's like building a little informal resume, and it stays here. It's a really good repository of information. I put this in, my daughter, she does karate. I was like, okay, put that in. Any kind of academic focus, career profile, we'll get to that with the new thing, and then here's my drive. So what it is that we've already loaded college admission test dates. We want our juniors to find out when they're being given. So that's in the drive that all of the students can access themselves. Any job listings, which is fantastic, and we have them in there too. So the things that we want to let our students know globally, we'll put in the drive, and students can then put things that they want in their drive as well. So it's very interactive and user-friendly. Okay, so that's my little score demo. Is that all in the highlights right about now? I mean, there's college searches, they save the searches, that's the whole thing when it came to the top about that. But explored it, we're doing more with the students when it does come to their seminars, in the individual meetings. So far, we've been happy with what we're seeing with SCORE, and don't hesitate to ask any questions once we figure that out. Okay. So now we're going to pivot to the second part of our evening, and I'm going to invite the counselors up to come into these. It's not an auction. You don't get to bid on it. But come on up, right? Am I doing the right time? Yep? I should have had some music for that. So you're going to hear some great presentations, and we're going to do introductions first, and then we're going to follow along with some of our. Look at this team. They're so fantastic. Here we go. Don't trip. I know, right? It doesn't really matter, I don't think, the order. Maybe there's more than enough chairs. I don't know. All right. So, for the most part, there are a few counselors, I have to say, who are out sick. Things have been happening. I'm really sorry to say that. They are. But in the meantime, so we are going to introduce our METCO counselor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Willie Lopes. I'm the medical counselor. I work with the college and career counselors, the deans, the staff here to support our medical students. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Then we're going to go down the line, and the school counselor, you know what, just say who you are. There's a combination of school counselors and college and career counselors, and we're going to then start that up. There you go.
Good evening, I'm Michelle Kennedy. Welcome. Hi, I'm Melissa Hannenberger. I'm a college and career counselor.
Hi everyone, Jen Garrity, college and career counselor.
Good evening, I'm Jillian Hall. I'm a college and career counselor.
Hi, welcome. My name is Kira Slosky, school counselor.
Good evening, everyone. Melita Pearson, school counselor.
You know who I am.
Hi everyone, Pat Manning, freshman football coach.
Andy's a school counselor. Brendan Megan, school counselor.
Nancy Dakota, school counselor. Hi there, Belma Johnson, same.
Hi, I'm Christine Potter, school counselor.
Hello, I'm Jess Bulmer, school counselor.
And I'm Sarah Polstein, school counselor.
All right. Actually, Actually, this works now, I think, yeah. Is that everybody? Yeah, all right, so, we're gonna start. Next up is Michelle Kennedy. Here we go.
Yes, I'm a school counselor, I forgot to mention that. And I'm really glad to see you all here tonight as we embark on this journey. So, a couple of thoughts. Junior year is very exciting for the family. It's also a time for increased independence for your child. Please think about that. Sometimes there's tension because students may not be ready to engage in this process. After all, there are a lot of important decisions to be made, and for some students, this is the first time they're being asked to make these kinds of decisions. And remember, this is actually a research project. It takes a couple of months to complete. The goal is to find a good fit for your child, to come up with a plan that is appropriate for your family and your child, and most importantly, to preserve your relationship at all costs, and I'm not joking, okay? So we're here to help you with every aspect. Some of us have been doing it for like a millennium, so it's all good, even with pandemic. And lastly, when juniors were asked what they need from their parents or their guardians during this process, most of them replied, support when asked, and acceptance of their choices. Got it? So, what is the school counselor's role in all of this? And you can see a lot of what we do, everything from individual appointments, managing the process with them, talking about standardized testing, and helping them apply for accommodations if that's appropriate. We write counselor statements, more on that later. Help with timelines and deadlines, and support with score and applications, all of this stuff, financial aid as well. But we also jump for joy with them, we cry with them, and we help them pivot if they need to. So fortunately, the school counselors get to collaborate with the College and Career Center counselors. And I would like to introduce Melissa Hanneberger, who's going to talk more about what the College and Career Center has to offer.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. So, as the College and Career Counselors, we want to tell you about the unique model that Newton North students have. We are very lucky in that our students have a school counselor that they work with for all 4 years of high school. And then starting in January of junior year, they can start working with a college and career counselor. So your child has worked with the school counselor for the past 2.5 years to prepare them for this moment when their academic, educational, and personal goals merge to form a plan for their future. Students have a team of experts that come together to support your child's future plans as college and career counselors share information with school counselors after our meetings. And lastly, future plans do not have to include college. We also help students with gap years and explore military, trade, and career options. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Garrity, who will talk to you about scheduling appointments with us.
Thank you, Melissa. So once again, Jen Garrity, I'm a college and career counselor here at Newton North, and how to make appointments. So juniors, students in the crowd tonight, you can start making appointments with us now. We always get some students coming in early fall, junior year, and we say second semester. So as of January 18th, you are free to sign up with any of the 3 of us. I tell students as they come in our office, it does not matter who you sign up with. All 3 of us are available to you. Each of the 3 of us works part-time, and our schedules are all different. So any students looking to schedule an appointment, be sure to check all 3 calendars, right? Someone's availability may work better than another, and that's completely fine. On average, I would say most juniors meet with one of us at least 1 or 2 times their junior year, and then at least once senior year. Everybody will be different, but I would say just to give you a baseline feel, 1 to 2 times junior year and 1 to 2 times senior year. You can find our calendars on the Info for Class of 2024 Google Doc that Beth mentioned earlier. You can also come down to the College and Career Center yourself. We are in room 110 off the cafeteria. You can sign up using our QR codes. Couple key points for students. You cannot miss class to meet with us. Every year I get a few who try, and they're like, oh, it's just this, it's just PE. Doesn't matter. You cannot miss class to meet with us. It must be during a free block, academic support block, or a tiger block. If you're in a position where you're like, I have no frees this term, I really want to meet with one of you guys, let us know. We're happy to move around our schedule, make something work, because we want to be accessible to everybody. Lastly, you do not need to come prepared to talk with anything at this meeting. I know sometimes students are like, I don't know what I want to do. That's okay. Come meet with us. We'll start to sort that out. We have a lot of time. Parents are always welcome to attend these meetings with their students, so please feel free to join if able. And lastly, we do fill up rather quickly. So if you're a junior right now thinking, I'm not ready to talk about this quite yet, take a look at our calendars in March or April. It is totally fine to sign up for an appointment a little bit farther down the line if you're not ready to talk with that quite yet. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Hall.
Thank you. So just lastly, aside from the appointments, just 3 other resources from the College and Career Center that we do want to highlight, 2 of which that have already been brought up tonight. First is the College Planning Guide, which Beth did show you all. It is accessible from the main Newton North website if you navigate to the Counseling tab. That document is over 100 pages. It's very large, but it's a great overview of the process. So especially for those of you that are going through it for the first time, open up that doc, use the table of contents, and navigate to the chapters that you're the most curious about. Secondly is that information for the class of 2024 Google Doc. The 3 of us are in that document on a daily basis, updating it with anything that we are hearing about. So whether that be upcoming virtual college fairs, in-person college fairs, financial aid workshops, standardized testing, new summer opportunities, it is all in that document. It really is a dumping ground. So the best way to use that is really to plan to go into it once a week and look for any new highlighted information. We leave the information highlighted for about a week. So check it out, make it something that you visit regularly. And lastly, the 3rd resource that we work really hard on is making sure that we do get college admissions representatives to the school during the spring. And so we are going to open up the calendar for college reps to start signing up for the spring. They do typically travel in the April-May time period, and so we will be offering college admission representative visits during the WIN blocks during those months. That information will be posted in SCORE. It also will be posted in the info doc. And so students will sign up just like they do for any of their other WIN blocks using MyFlexLearning. We look forward to meeting your students. Thank you so much.
Mr. Manning?
Okay, talk a little bit about standardized testing. So many of you have heard, especially with COVID, a lot of schools have changed their testing policies. So the first thing I want to encourage you is to make sure that you check in with the schools you're applying to see what their requirements are. Because a lot of that stuff is changing year to year. So you want to make sure that you don't have some school and you're like, oh, I don't take a test, I heard they got rid of it for COVID, and then you go to apply and find out it's required. So make sure you're doing that research. Another piece of that is there may be a school that says we're test optional, but they may have a program within the school that requires a test. So you may be interested in, say, nursing. And the general school has a test optional policy. The nursing school says, no, we want to see your SAT or ACT scores. So as you're deciding to take these tests, you're going to be thinking, which one makes sense for me? The first thing to know is that they are viewed equally. So there is not one test that is better than the other in the eyes of admissions representatives. The biggest difference, really, if you're going to narrow it down to like a quick presentation we're doing right now, is they're going to want you to go quicker, and so you're kind of moving faster on the ACT. More questions, less time, and you slow down a little bit on the SAT. That's sort of the biggest, if we're going to do like big picture, 1,000-foot view of what the difference is. That's what we're looking at for the 2 of them. Couple things to look at is you may have a fee waiver. You may be eligible for a fee waiver. So for a while, free and reduced lunch was the easiest way to know this. If there is a financial situation in your family where the paying for the test is a hardship, please let one of us know, and we can talk you through the fee waiver process. The other thing that comes up with this very often is accommodations. If you have an IEP or a 504 plan, and you have a diagnosed disabilities with accommodations that you use in your classroom, you can apply to use those accommodations on the individual tests. It's important to know that that is not a school decision. So we will help with the processing of the forms, but the tests themselves are the ones who make the decision of whether or not you'll be eligible for those accommodations. If you are taking one, please check in, and we will help you kind of guide you through that process. Okay? TOEFL. So TOEFL, Test of English as a Foreign Language. If you are new to this country and English is not your first language, the school that you're applying to may require that you take this test. So this again is something that's really important to check with the school. They're basically looking to see that you can perform at the school in English. So some schools, based on the number of years you've done high school in America, they may waive it. So you definitely want to look at that. We can help you kind of research when you do or don't need to take TOEFL. Generally, if you've been all the way through high school, you probably will not have to take it, but we can talk about that some more. The other standardized test that sometimes we skip over, but we want to make sure we talk about the ASVAB. And we are lucky that we have a military liaison in this building, Larry Allen, who's a former counselor, and he offers the ASVAB in school. And why that is a benefit is because he can kind of filter some of the recruiters, he can kind of help you sort of see what the results are and go over that with you and what that really means. So it's an excellent resource for you to take advantage of. So if you are interested in the military, we would very strongly encourage you to set up a meeting with Mr. Allen. We can help facilitate that, and so you can take that test in school and have that conversation with him and have someone to help you through the process, just an additional resource. We want to throw as many resources at you as possible, no matter what your choice is after you finish up there. All right? Ms. Fulham, I think I'll give it to you.
Yes. So we're going to be talking to you about the course registration process, which is starting in just a couple of weeks over February vacation, when our Opportunities course catalog is posted on our website. And it goes through the month of March, ending on the 31st. This is the last time our students or children will be going through this process at Newton North to choose their senior year classes. And as we say every year, we really emphasize to the students in seminars and to you as parents to take this process really seriously, to spend the time having conversations with teachers, with each other, parents and guardians and their children, with their counselors, reading through the course descriptions and making the best choices for them. For senior year, the students have far more options than they ever have had before. There are great electives in the English department, in the social studies department, in the science department. Students really have a lot of choice going into senior year. And as we always do, we emphasize that students really try to keep a balance in their schedule. We want students to be challenging themselves, but challenging themselves in an appropriate way. We want to make sure students are maintaining their social life, their emotional health, their physical health. And so it is really striking that balance. Where are they challenging themselves, and what will allow them time to hang out with their friends, to get involved in activities that they're interested in, and to sleep. Applying to college can almost feel like another class, at least during the time period that they're applying in the fall. So that is something just for students to keep in mind, that they will have additional tasks and responsibilities on their plate. It's also important to know that when they are choosing their classes and the process ends in March, we aren't able to make changes beyond that point. We build our staffing and our sections of our master schedule based on the requests that they put in, and so we do not allow schedule changes in the fall if students suddenly change their mind. So we really do emphasize putting the time in, really giving it some good thought. If you have questions, if you want to talk about pros and cons of different types of classes, please reach out to your child's counselor. Teachers are a great resource. And Nancy's going to talk more about the process.
Hi everyone, I'm going to talk more about the nuts and bolts of the registration process, which is going to start right before February break on the 14th. Teachers will start talking to your children on February 14th until March 14th, just about classes they want to take for next year. And like Jess was saying, going into senior year, there are so many more options, so there's a lot more to talk about, and your child's voice is very important
Teacher may think may lean one way, and may be thinking something else, so it's important to have those conversations. During February break, the opportunities booklet will go live on the website, so you and your children can start reviewing that and go through and see if there's any new classes, if they heard of a class through friends, like what is that really about, start doing some research, and when they come back, talk to their teachers. Talk to friends who are currently in the class, knowing that their experience will probably be different than their friend, but still, it's a lot of information. Talk to teachers who are currently teaching the class. Like Jess said, you want to go in with as much information to make the best decision when you're picking classes for next year. Starting March 14th to March 20th, students are able to put in any electives and PE classes, making sure they have 2 to 3 backups of almost every single subject for next year. Because there are so many options for them to pick from, there's not as many sections running. So it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle, like putting the schedule together. We want to make sure students are getting classes they want. Sometimes they think, if I only put one English class, the computer's going to make sure I get it. It doesn't work that way. And if they don't get that choice because it doesn't fit, let's say it conflicts with orchestra and French 4, then they have to pick from like an English class that fits in their schedule, which may not be one of the choices they originally wanted. So it's really important to put backup choices in when they're making their selections. Same with electives. Starting March 15th to the end of March, we're going to go through and review each of our students' course requests. We're going to make sure they have enough courses, they're not overscheduled. We're going to look at balance. If something looks a little course heavy, we're going to pull our students in and just have a conversation, knowing that balance for each student is going to be a little different. Again, we want to make sure students can participate in the extracurriculars they have some downtime, spend some time with friends, sleep like Jess said, and be able to go through whatever their post-secondary planning process is while maintaining, comfortable grades at North. March 30th is verification day, so this is the last day that students can have a change of heart. They decide they don't want to take ethics anymore, they'd rather take law and society. Great, you can make those changes for whatever reason, no explanation necessary, but after March 30th it is locked, and they start to staff and build the schedule, so no changes can be done, which is why it's so important throughout, the month before, students doing all their research. Stop by and see their counselors, feel free to reach out to us, phone call, email, ask as many questions as you need. So this is all done, and you and your child have, feel good about going into next year with all the course requests that are being made. In the meantime, some things that they can do, make sure they can get access to their Aspen portal. Their registration process won't be turned on till beginning of March. Go through the opportunities booklet, talk to them, talk to their teachers, talk to us about courses for next year. Consider what next year is going to look like, maybe just life going on in general. And then, again, beginning March 14th to put in their course requests and electives, PE classes, all that for next year.
Can I show one thing? So I put this in here because on Newton North's website, when you click on it, it has all of these documents at your fingertips for the course registration process, okay? One-stop shopping. So you can go on there and you can start looking at the information as it gets updated. Just want to put that little plug in for the website. All right, Mr. Emilio? I think so too. Here we go.
All right, so teacher recommendations, or for lack of a better phrase, like letters of recommendation. So the letter of recommendation is another typically required portion of the applications, whether it be for college, jobs, some gap year programs. The large majority of post-high school options require some type of letter of recommendation. So what we have 11th graders do over the course of the end of March, we have the dates right here, March 27th to about April 10th. We kind of set them forth and to their 11th grade teachers to write these letters of recommendation. We recommend having conversations with the school counselors individually to figure out who that teacher or those two teachers may be. Because it's not necessarily that, I took my math class and I got an A in it and that's who I'm going to have write my letter of recommendation. That could be a nice letter of recommendation, but perhaps the course that you consistently went to win blocks to meet with the teacher and met with them before or after school, and you ended up with a B+ in the class, and you weren't, happy with that grade, you really wanted the A, but perhaps you did a lot of work in that class, and that teacher can write some really great, juicy anecdotes that can be some of the most influential statements that can be in a letter of recommendation. So 2 teachers from 11th grade, and then something to note, some colleges with specific programs, so we often see this in engineering or nursing, for example, they might require a science or math teacher to write the letter of recommendation. So that's something to be aware of as you have the conversations and look into the schools that might be on the list to apply to in the fall or next winter. Yeah, I think that's it. Yes.
You'll get information about the process of requesting. Don't you worry. It'll be forthcoming. Ms. Polstein.
All right, so the school counselor statement, different than the letters of recommendation from your teachers, every student will get a letter from their counselor or a statement from their counselor. You don't need to ask us. We're going to be writing it no matter what. It is confidential, so we will write it and you will not get to see it, but we do promise it will be very strong and positive. So it is submitted to college admissions offices, and then, like Mr. Emilio said, we'll also go to employers, military branches, any scholarship committees, so no matter what you're doing after high school, this counselor statement is going to be very important. So it's going to provide information about the student's academic profile, but also try to sort of round you out as a person. It will include our impressions and then any circumstances that need explanation. If you had a long extended absence, for example, or if you're grade sophomore year but you really improved junior year, those are all things that we're going to, again, like sort of put a face to, round it out a little bit, provide any explanation necessary. Like I said, you don't need to request it, but you do need to fill out the junior questionnaire. That's going to be found in SCORE, which will help you guys find. It is very, very important that you fill that out, hopefully in a timely manner, with as much detail as possible. The stronger and more thorough the junior questionnaire is, the stronger and more thorough your counselor's letters of recommendation can be. That's information that you really think is important, that we know, that you want us to share with colleges, that you really want to emphasize, so please do fill those out. There is then also a future planning questionnaire for parents and guardians as well. Some students do find it really challenging to brag about themselves, but we want them to. So you can then also fill this out, share a little bit more details that your student might not have shared before. Again, just to give us as much information as possible.
Great. Ms. Losky?
Okay. As we say, as we're about to wrap up with our junior seminars, we recognize that there's been a ton of information given to you tonight. And so we acknowledge that some of you might be here, like information overload. We are going to repeat this information to your children in a variety of ways. We're going to post all this to our school G accounts. We look forward to meeting with students one-on-one. So we acknowledge that if you're feeling right now like, oh my gosh, we can only imagine how your children are feeling, we get that. As we've said, we've done this time in, time out, and so we're very comfortable with this process, and we acknowledge that for many of you, it's the first time you're hearing about this. Certainly with SCORE, it's the first time that you're hearing about this. So just to wrap up before we jump into questions, senior course registration, as you just heard, there's a lot of thought that needs to go into it. Perhaps you're sitting here and you have worked with your child and they've made a decision to enroll in a course and suddenly they have second thoughts. As you probably know from experience and or have been told, we really, really need students to think carefully about what they enroll in and what they choose for senior year. There's not flexibility when it comes to, I thought I was interested in that, and then I got to that course, I'm really not. We just don't have that luxury. So we are going to be trying to emphasize the necessity for balance and thinking very carefully about what we suggest, what we enroll in come the next few months. College research, there's lots that goes into that. We always say to students, we understand that some students have been thinking about this since they were freshmen. Other students who we have who are seniors are still kind of like I guess I'm gonna get into the game. So I always use the whole term of a spectrum, and we acknowledge that different people are at different places. We're gonna meet your children and you where you are with the process and continue to do that as we all work together. The list development is something that we encourage. We encourage students, as Ms. Garrity said, sometimes students think, I don't know what I want to do. Am I ready to make an appointment with a college or career counselor? The answer is yes. I can't tell you the sense of relief that students after they've met with one of our college or career counselors. So students don't need to know all the answers. They can go in and say, hey, I don't know all the answers, but here I am. And we have 3 amazing, amazing counselors who are going to meet them where they're at, share information. We are collaborative. We work as a team to meet students where they are. The college visits and interviews, we do encourage students to use school vacations. We are so fortunate to be in an area where we can, if students are saying, I don't know if I want to be in a city or a suburb, a large school or a small school, it's not that students need to apply to the Boston area schools, but it allows them to go onto campus and say, whoa, I thought I wanted a big campus in the middle of the city, and guess what, I do not. So we really encourage students and families, when you're comfortable doing so, to use our resources and use the colleges, campuses, and universities that we have at our fingertips to really be able to help people feel like a better idea of what they might want to be doing going forward. College affordability. Again, we're on a spectrum. There are some students who are fortunate where they're not going to have to be thinking about that. More and more students are having to think about that. So really, we encourage you to be honest, to connect with your school counselor. We're going to be working with your children to talk about this aspect of that whole part of the puzzle, because it is a really big part of the puzzle. And so we'll get into more of that. We also will have resources as we go to help figure out things like filling out a FAFSA, figuring out how to navigate the whole the financing of all of the college in the process. Certainly though, if you are sitting here and you are not sure if your child qualifies for a fee waiver, please reach out to your student's counselor, because we never want a student to not pursue an opportunity for fear of not being able to afford that. And certainly there are lots of opportunities and resources out there. In terms of special considerations, support, so we will be working with students, whether your child is going to be pursuing something in the fine performing visual arts, maybe you have an athlete, maybe you have students who really are going to need some supports in college. Lots of different particulars. We are going to be here to meet you where you're at. So I think the general theme that hopefully you hear is we are here for you. Utilize us, reach out to us. If you have a question following tonight, reach out to us. If it's a quick question, you want an email answer, if you want to schedule time to meet with us, either in person or virtually, please just don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we are going to be saying the same message to your children. And without further ado, we look forward to answering any questions you may have. After Ms. Johnson
After
presents.
me, the lost slide. All right. So I've been on this journey with most of you since kindergarten with my own child. So we are going to go over, it's going to be short and sweet. This is the junior, kind of the future planning dates, important dates. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but between now and June, we encourage them to make an appointment with a college counselor, as we said earlier. We have some ACT exams, SAT exams. Pay attention to some of the deadlines for registration. You don't want to pay that late fee. And then we have course registration begins for senior year classes, yes, senior year, February 27th. And then as another important date would be March 27th, teacher recommendation letter request. And then those end April 10th. And then you can refer to this, information on the important dates all the way through the year. And we'll be going through the timeline with the students in seminar as well. Yeah. And then there's also the slide has, some information about the class of 2024 from the College Career Center, and then the college admission rep visits right there. And so I would encourage you to look at that and possibly attend some college fairs as well. Thank you.
Great.
And now we will do Q&A.
Now we'll do some Q&A. All right,
How's that? There we go. All right. I can walk around and people can use this mic. There are two up here that may work as well.
My question is, you've had 2 years to observe the last 2 classes going through application processes where the standardized tests have been optional. Can you share with us your observations in terms of how that has affected admissions for those students?
Want me? You?
I can take this one. So yeah, we were certainly spring of 2020 in that first class of 2021, right after the pandemic started, we were concerned, as most were, about what that was going to look like. And after looking at the data from the previous 2 classes, it doesn't seem to have changed much. And if anything, I think it's opened up access for a lot of students to apply to colleges they hadn't previously considered. And we're seeing a lot of those students get in, and I think that's really reflected in the fact that many of these colleges, Harvard and BU too, I'm thinking of off the top, that have decided to continue this test optional policy. I think if anything, it opens doors for more students not to be bound to that test. And for students who are particularly good test takers, it still serves as an advantage for them. So I would say by and large, it seems to have been pretty stable and a positive view for us.
Jillian, I remember you shared some data at the
Yeah, it's
senior
just
night, if you wanted to, if you remember that.
Wasn't that, I think, well, students who got into
I don't remember what
the
the
top
data was.
3 college, one of their top 3 colleges, about 30% did not submit a test score. So the good amount that did not submit and still got into the schools that they were doing, and the admissions criteria, it just opened up the landscape to be much more holistic and personal. So a lot of students actually benefited from it.
Yeah, going off that data, Beth, I don't have the exact numbers, but I think majority of students took the test, but I would say majority did not send their test score to every college they applied to.
Right. Brad?
And just to add to that, I know BU is one of the colleges that is doing a study, and they're doing it on their grad students as well, but they're seeing that the students who have not applied with test scores are being just as successful as those who have applied with the test scores. So I think that's a good piece of information, and the study is, it's like, yeah, it's recent, it's, you know, they're 2 years in, but I think that's quite telling.
Hi, my understanding is that you need the SAT test scores for merit scholarships. Is that correct?
For some colleges, it may certainly be true. That's why it's always good to check each individual school your student's considering, but I would say for the most part, most colleges that have gone test optional have included that for merit scholarships as well.
Hi. Is it possible to have more than one letter of recommendation?
Yeah, we recommend that each student ask for 2. Most colleges only, they'll only take 2. Some will take a little bit more than 2, but one of the biggest pieces of advice for letters of recommendation is that these college admission officers do not want to continuously read the same thing over and over again. So that's why they will typically only take 2. Now, if you want to ask a coach, a boss, someone from outside of school for an additional letter of recommendation, that's fantastic because it says totally different information that's not from the academic setting, but you wouldn't ask them through the way we're doing it through school. And we would touch base on that in the fall during our senior seminars.
I also just want to be clear that if a college application requires 1 or 2 letters of recommendation, they want it from someone who has taught you and evaluated you, teacher. So be very clear on that. And at least a junior teacher, someone who knows the person you are now. You're not that freshman anymore.
I remember it being mentioned that some college programs require a recommendation from a specific teacher, like a math or science teacher. How common is that requirement, and how much weight should that put into our decision to ask which teacher to get our recommendation from?
If you know what you want to study, and we cited before, like engineering or nursing, you want to go on the website and you want to read the fine print about the specific requirements for those programs. If you're doing something a little bit more general, then you have the leeway to choose which teachers that you want. I would say we see it mostly with engineering, where they'll say a math teacher, or if you're doing something STEM related, it would be math or science, sometimes computer programming. And there are colleges that don't require any recommendations as well, as odd as that might sound.
So I have a question. It sounded like you apply through the score system? Like, you actually do your college application, and then like, is the Common App part of that?
So it's all a choice. So that's the thing. So you don't have to apply through SCORE. SCORE is partnered with the Coalition app. So it's a total choice. You don't have to apply through SCORE. You don't have to apply through Coalition. The majority of our students apply to what we call the common application. And some go through the institutional application of the particular college. So we don't have to, but it is a choice. And as we are figuring out SCORE more and more, that could be a pathway for us to support. But it's not just because we have SCORE and you can apply through SCORE doesn't mean you have to. So we'll see how that's going to work out. There's never been a preference of the type of application that a college receives, as long as they accept all these different types of applications. Some schools don't accept the common, so you're going to do their individual application. Other schools do accept the common. Some will have the coalition. So whatever it is that the colleges will say, well, we accept, then it's up to them. It doesn't matter what the preference is.
I would say the most important piece of SCORE for the process is also just, it's a school-based program, so like we send our documents, our school profile, transcripts, letters of recommendation, statements that are from counselors, like that's the primary source, as well as being able to help out with your student search. So it kind of makes it streamlined. Again, if you've used Navion, it's more or less the same program, just a little fancier and a little bit more user-friendly on your end. And so as your students going through the process, we'll look at how much can get done on the Common App, how much might need to be done in SCORE or the Coalition App, how many are actually institutional apps, just so that they are prioritizing their time appropriately to meet all of their deadlines.
For the historical data that's imported into SCORE, for the grades, are those the weighted grades that were used in the past, or are those converted back to unweighted, so they can be apples to apples for our kids?
We have apples to oranges right now. So we are working on making sure to see where the conversion can make more sense. So historically, it was based on the weighted, correct? The weighted GPAs, which was used to be out of a 5.0. Yep. And so we look at it more of a global perspective, because still, if you're looking at students who have been through the process, and the conversion is not going to be perfect, but at least gives this, perspective of the students of, okay, what have they gotten from particular scores or particular past GPAs? But we're working hard to figure out how to make sure to tighten up some of that data. From a test score perspective, we also know that so much being test optional, but there's a button now in SCORE that you can click, and it can be like, oh, test optional, and it can determine whether a student submits scores or not. So we're doing our best to kind of sift through the data to make it as tight as possible, but with the transition of going into an unweighted GPA, it's not going to be perfect, but it'll give us a good idea.
Can I just also add that that's why the page about admissions under the SCORE website for the specific institutions is really important, because that shows the profile of a perfect or not perfect applicant, a strong applicant in their community, as well as looking at the actual institutions, maybe like fact page or about us page or admissions page, that kind of highlights again what they're looking for test scores, grades, subjects taken, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it's also important to remember that you are the last class that does not have 4, say, normal years. So there is no apple for your GPA to be another apple, no matter what, you guys are peers. And so it's the nature of when you went to school and what happened freshman year and what happened sophomore year, that there is no real easy way for us to make that comparison.
If we've already listed the service of a private college counselor service, would it be beneficial for them to be in touch with you, and so cross communication will happen, or what do you recommend?
No, to be honest. That is a personal choice, and that is not something that we particularly establish those relationships. So we have our process, and we know what's right for your families, and some people are like, if that's a resource that you choose, that's fine, but that's not something that we're going to then integrate into our process.
Yeah, and I'll answer that quickly, is that the reason why we've invested as a school in college and career counselors is because of when that trend started several years ago, and so we believe that our college counselors are just as strong as any private service that you can find. In fact, many of these folks probably have gotten many emails from folks who are trying to get them to work for their service. So
cut it out.
Exactly. Don't ever read those emails.
One thing left on that private counselor piece, one suggestion I would make from experience we've had working with students who work with outside consultants, one recommendation I would have is if you are working with an outside counselor, have that student still check in with us or a school counselor for the Newton North specific processes that the outside counselor just wouldn't have access to, right? Letters of teacher recommendations, transcript requests, those North specific things can be valuable working with an outside consultant.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what you said, Henry. From my own personal experience, I think you have an amazing team. I've worked with these ladies on another project, and I think you guys are amazing. So definitely use them. I feel like sometimes you're overwhelmed, but you do get back to everybody. So please, thank you for that team.
A couple of questions over here.
I know there was a window of time for the teacher recommendation period. I also assume that teachers have limits. So is it recommended, so should you seek out your primary teachers the first day as opposed to waiting to the end of the time period?
No. It's not first come, first serve.
It's not the Hunger Games anymore.
So teachers will have their own process, and say you have a biology teacher who teaches 3 junior classes and might have 90 kids, they will have their process, and they'll let the students know what their process is in terms of lottery or some sort of process that they have in place. Question here.
I have 2 questions. The first question is that school system. Can you clarify whether students and the parents will use school to help organize research university, but not necessarily use school to apply? Because my son applied last year, we use Common App. So I just want to understand the role of school. Is it just purely to research and organize, or this year we will start to use school to do application? That's the first question.
I would say that I think you're exactly right. I think at a minimum, I think SCORE will be a great way to research colleges and keep students organized. Some students may choose to apply using SCORE, but I think it's our understanding that most students will continue to use the Common App, at least for now.
There are more colleges that are on the Common App system than on the Coalition system, which is the one that syncs with SCORE. So, depending on what your student's list looks like, it would be surprising to me if they only had to fill out the Coalition application, where there's a more likely situation in which they would only do the Common App. Hopefully that makes sense.
And if you've had experience in the past where your child has used the Common App, so all of our documents are going to go through SCORE going forward. So transcripts, teacher recommendations, counselor statements. So for any of you who have any familiarity with Naviance, that was how we sent our documents prior to this year. For the junior class, all of those documents will go through SCORE. So it's both a tool to be able to research, but it's also our way of sending documents from Newton North.
Got it. The second question is about essay. I know writing an essay is a big part of application as well. So how do children get help from teacher to help develop this ability and really excel in this area?
Sure. So we mentioned earlier, or Ms. Swiderska has mentioned earlier, that in May we'll have another junior seminar. And in that seminar is when we'll really talk about the different ways to apply, but also more importantly is we'll pull up the fall/winter next year application, and in that application is the Common App essay prompts. So we'll show students that, and we will highly encourage students to do the essay over the summer. What's really great about Newton North, I think, compared to other schools that I know of, is that every senior year English teacher will work on the essay in that first quarter to, overflow into the second quarter, just because they know how many students are applying early. So there's going to be that time to do it within the fall, but then they can also come back in the fall, first day of school even, utilize the school counselor, utilize the college and career counselors for support in that essay, but then also work with their teacher from last year if they want to, but then their current senior year teacher as well.
And we have a whole chapter in our college planning guide on essay writing, brainstorming, worksheet, that kind of thing. So we just try to give as much support as possible.
When we're helping our child to narrow down schools that might be a good fit for them, looking at those scattergrams again, is it correct to conclude that maybe some of the test scores are a little inflated because of the test optional, test being optional? Maybe only students who are scoring higher are actually reporting those scores? Is that like a correct assumption? Okay.
Yes. It's a new game when it comes to admission.
Another question about the scattergram. So it's got the ACT, the SAT, and the weighted GPA, is that correct? Unweighted GPA.
One more question.
Keeping on the theme of the scattergram, did I understand correctly that those are Newton North students? Or?
Yes.
So I'm just curious, if students don't apply through SCORE, how are you getting that data? Like, how do you know how many students applied to Penn State, I think was the example, and how many got waitlisted? I mean, that can't be, I'm just wondering how representative that is, depending on self-reporting, if they're not applying through SCORE, or?
Everyone has to let us know they're applying so we can send transcripts, so we know every school that every student applies to.
Okay, and but then do you also know the feedback, like they applied, they got waitlisted here, how do you know that?
We require students to fill out a senior questionnaire
Okay.
at the end of the senior year when they tell us how they get on over to schools.
Got it, so you have that list and you submit that to them and they have to tell you?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic.
One or two more questions.
You get your steps in, Henry.
Is there someone over here?
Did you ever see it? Yeah?
Yep, there we go.
Thank you all. So I'm wondering what was like the use of the sophomore year recommendation letter or the sophomore comment? Would it be ever used in the college application process?
Yeah, so the sophomores last year asked teachers for a comment. So a teacher comment is used in our statements and our counselor statements to kind of capture a period of time in which you had obviously gotten to school, you had settled into your academics. It might be a class that you did really well in, a subject that you're very much interested in, a subject that you want to pursue as a career, or a teacher that knows you really, really well. And so we use that to kind of boost up our statements to say this is who they were as a sophomore. Now you're getting letters for them as juniors, and then you're seeing the holistic picture as the counselor about their extracurriculars, about their involvement in the community, local and grader. So we use those to, it really just goes back to the holistic approach that admissions are taking about a student and looking at more than just their grades and the numbers of an SAT score. I mean, you're so much more than those numbers, and so we, as your counselors, really hone in on that.
Okay, thank you. So in the last two classes, how many college averagely each student apply for, and how does that compare to before the pandemic?
I would say that average is 12 to 14-ish in the last 2 years. And that's very high. Pre-pandemic, we were probably more in the 8 to 12 range for most students. So certainly the last couple of years, students have applied to more colleges because of the unpredictability of the testing is more or less what we've seen. I think that hopefully now has stabilized a little bit with the previous question about, how has test optional affected outcomes. I think everybody has a better sense of that, and I think everyone is a little more confident in predicting admissions outcomes the longer that we've gone through this.
I think on that note, this just reminded me of something that we are saying to all students. What works for one student is not the same thing that works for another student. So we are really going to encourage students to try to keep their blinders on. There becomes this groundswell level. So-and-so knows what they're applying to. So-and-so is applying early. So-and-so is applying to 14. So-and-so is applying to 20. What works for one person does not work for all. So if 12 to 14 right now is sitting here and you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought that, that's okay. We are really encouraging students to try to understand what works best for them. It's easier said than done, we get that, and certainly in this community, but to the extent that as a student and as a family, you can figure out what works best for you, that's what we encourage you to do, and we are gonna reiterate that message time and again. And if you suddenly, as parents or guardians, are thinking, oh my gosh, I just reach out to us. Like we're talking to your students sometimes, we're encouraging them, it's exciting, we're really working with that. And we acknowledge sometimes things are really inherently stressful. So wherever you are in the process, that's where you're meant to be, and it's okay. And please, whether you've talked with us over the past few years several times, or perhaps you're looking at us and you're like, oh, Miss Losky's back. Whatever familiarity you have with us, we are here for you. Just reach out to us, let us know what you need, and we will meet you and your children. We promise where you're at and where they're at. And we're gonna tell them that time and again.
If your list is not balanced, and what I mean by balanced is you have a reasonable amount of schools that look likely, a good amount that are sort of 50-50, and maybe some reaches, which is a choice. Applying to more is not going to net you more acceptances. That's almost like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. So that's what we encourage students and families to do as well. And these lovely colleagues of mine and my school counseling colleagues want to work with your children. Students would want to work with you to figure out a balanced list. Make sense? And on that note, thank you for coming this evening.
And ending on a Michelle Kennedy spaghetti analogy is always perfect. So we will end there. Hopefully you got a few nuggets. Thank you so much. I'll just say one last quick thing is please, please, please use the resources here. And I'll just give a shout out for our SEAL program. We have a lot more SEALs for this junior class. So please ask your student about, we have a new STEM application one, which is going to be really exciting. So please consider that. Thank you so much, everyone.
Oh, well, yeah.
Saturday,